And hello, joining me now, Sean Starry. This is the man who I would say knows everything about living off the grids, security. He's had an extensive background. We've had him on the show before. I've been on your show before. For the people who don't know you, give yourself a little bit of background because you wore a lot of hats and you still do.
Yeah, so I worked in the military for 4 years as a counterintelligence officer. I've served 24 years as a military contractor. 2 years of that as an analyst, and then the other 22 years as an armed security officer in high profile government locations. And I'm currently retired, but now I work as an author and I'm also a podcaster too. But that's
I will put your links to your work because people know how to get things. You have your books or whatever. I'll put a link on the screen. So today I contacted you because last summer, I forget when we talked, but you said this year was going to be very interesting. And now today I woke up and I was getting word that many of the cell phone companies, AT&T being the biggest, were down nationwide in many areas. Not everyone was down, but then it was a lot of them, that Down Detector thing where you can see all who's down online. And it was a lot of cell phone companies. You probably heard about that this morning. In what first came to mind when you hear that? It seems like this is more than just like a couple cell towers going down.
Yeah. So the way it works is this: the scammers or the people that are trying to take this information down, all they have to do is file with the FCC as a communication company using shell accounts, and then what they do is they register with the communication companies, and what they do is they clone the numbers, and then once they do that, they shut the system down.
So you're you think it was some sort of hack? It wasn't just a malfunction of the system, most likely. It was.
Absolutely not, because you have to understand, we live in a digital world. Everything is right at our fingertips very quickly. But the
Yeah.
problem is that it comes with human error. We have, for example, we have a lot of people within our government systems that are truly incapable of verifying information to begin with. Um, and that's one part of it. But the other part of it is this: it could very well be a false flag, which is something I'm kind of leaning towards. But we see this a lot where we have Goldman Sachs said that prior to this, he said, "Hey, there's a potential for another ransomware attack on our communications," and almost without clockwork, it happens. So
Yeah.
um, whoever the enemy is, whether foreign or domestic, they definitely do know our systems in and out and backwards, and they know where the weaknesses are. The problem is that the people that are up in the government are not taking steps to ensure and make sure that our infrastructure is protected, whether it's our communications or whether it's our electrical grids, or even our water systems.
I'm going to put this on the screen just a short time ago, and I would expect this to happen, but the FBI is in contact with AT&T regarding today's network outage. Earlier in the day, they're like, oh, it wasn't a hack. It wasn't something. I think now maybe the pressure's on. The FBI, whether they're going to do anything or not, they're investigating. I would hope they would be investigating.
Yeah, yeah, that's the potential. That's what they call a soft control. They don't want people to know, and more importantly, they're not. They don't want that fear to be go spreading throughout the populace. Hey, um, we were kind of incompetent to begin with. Maybe somebody kind of hacked us. It could be our own, or it could be somebody else. Again, it goes back to, hey, it's all damage control.
Yeah, when I was working in television and I didn't sign an NDA, I'm allowed to say it, I think, and it was public. My broadcasting company, they had a ransomware attack. It was tied to Russia. And my company, they owned 80 stations. They didn't pay it, but it was literally crippling. We couldn't get into our computers. We couldn't turn on the lights in the studio. Everything was tied to this one system. And that made me realize at that time, if it's that easy, and we apparently had good site security. I guess we didn't, but it shut us down like that, and the company lost millions and millions and millions of dollars, and that was like 3-4 years ago. I can imagine now it was like that. They just flipped a switch. It seems like.
Yeah, yeah. And here's another thing too that most people probably have in the back of their mind, but on the forefront thought is this. So as we see with Biden and the way his administration is dealing with Russia to begin with, right? He spent a lot of this time telling people while he was running for president that Trump was going to get us into a third world war with Russia and China, while the whole time Trump was getting brokering peace. That's what he was doing. He's brokering a lot of peace.
Yep.
And now that we have a sitting president who is literally trying to launch us into a third world war, while at the same time trying to bankrupt our economy, he's creating more enemies as much as possible. So now we've got Russia, we've got China, we've got other countries like India, even all those were involved in the BRICS.
And Biden, and he comes off, I think Democrats and Republicans would agree, to the world stage comes off as weak and frail, and that's not what you want to send to the world. That look. Do other countries actually, the leaders, and you were in intelligence, do they pick up? I'm sure they pick up on this, that there's a weakness.
There is, and they pick up on it very well, and they will manipulate that situation. Where they know that he's weak, they know that his administration is not capable of being able to handle the jobs that they're supposed to do. So they're going to take advantage of that in any way they can. And ransomware happens to be one of the things. Now, here's the issue is this. Everything that we have now that you see, that's at your fingertips or on your computers, everything is in the digital world. Now, everything that is faster, is more accessible. It also means it's more vulnerable. So if we were to move ourselves back into the analog rather than be on digital systems, then there's a less likely chance for them to be able to hack it because they'd have to do it in person.
True. This just coming up here today. Change Healthcare, I guess, is a company that processes payments and so forth. They had a cyber attack with their company, and it's spilling over to pharmacies. I guess when pharmacies bill, there's a company that does the mass billing for pharmacies, and it's this company. Pharmacies across the country now are shut down because of a cyber attack on this one company. So this is one example of Domino Effect. Is this meant to steal information, to cause chaos, or to do all the above?
Pretty much all of the above. The best way to explain it is really simple. The more data, more information you have, the more you have to work with. The more information you have the idea is that you have to figure out what it is that your enemy possesses, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. And so by taking, the systems down, within the systems, you're essentially not only taking it down, but you're collecting all that information. So of more data that they receive and obtain, the greater to the degree of control that they'll have.
This is also just on Fox News. I think it's Marco Rubio warns Chinese cyber attack will be 100 times worse than the AT&T outage. Your power, your water. Some are saying he is just, crying wolf, but you've said this before, and very intelligent people have said this before. It even happened in Pennsylvania. There's been several municipal water authorities that have been taken over. So what he's saying right here, this is a serious issue, right?
It is. It's a very, very serious issue because what people don't seem to understand to an extent is this. Our entire infrastructure is set up on the digital system. Yeah. And it's very easy to get into. It's very easy to hack. It's very easy to control at the same time. So one of the big fundamentals of that is that we're codependent electrically on these large electric places that are generating all these electricities. So that's why it's really a good idea to move your home or your business off the grid electrically, because then this way, the more businesses and the more homes are doing this over time, what's going to happen is what we're going to see is the electrical infrastructure is going to move away from being codependent on, I want to say they're the way they're set up is they have regions. So there's, I believe, 5 or 6 regions, and each one of these regions is controlled by several power plants, and they're all online. So if people start to move away and become energy independent altogether, and what's going to happen is that they tried to attack the electrical infrastructure. It's not going to attack the home. It's not going to attack the business. It's not going to attack the area, because they're not linked up to the the power plants in that particular region. So
Yeah, this I brought it. This one I used to work in this area. This is back in last November. Municipal Water Authority hacked by Iranian-backed cyber group. So it's happened. It just hasn't happened on a major scale.
mhm.
But I mean, that's frightening. And this is the stuff CNN and MSNBC kind of need to be talking about, instead of just bitching about Trump and Biden 24/7, because this is the type of stuff that's would impact our lives. The question is, I guess the government may not be able to handle this, but what can we do as citizens? I don't know. To like, what if everything just shuts down? I mean, if and this is where you do a lot of training on, and you've talked to people about this. A lot of people don't have the ability to, live on go on the. Is there something basic people can do? Like, if your phones go down, they're down.
Yeah. So the cell phone systems are based on the towering system. So if the towers still have power, you don't have cell phone service. So one of the things I teach train people is this. Start looking for alternative forms of communication, such as like ham radios, or even a citizen band radio, CB radio. Those two cannot be controlled or hacked by any digital means, because it's based on radio waves. So that's one essential way that people can get into, is get your ham radio operator's license, and know and learn and join a club and be part of that. Because essentially over time, what's going to happen is that with the digital systems that are in place, if everything goes down, and we're kind of predicting that it will at some point, everything's going to have to revert back to more of the older standards of communication, which is going to be ham radios.
I'm looking right here. I Googled ham radio. You can buy these. I mean, the average person.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. This says ham radio. I don't know if this is a ham radio or not. But I don't know. Do you have suggestions on it? It can be basic, just to have it in your house. Maybe do a little training. You could probably learn how to use a ham radio on a YouTube video and be prepared, right?
Right. So one of the things you can do is just sign up and take a ham radio operator class, or like get your license,
Okay.
just your general license, and they will give you a really great idea as to what kind of ham radios that you should obtain. Now, if you're looking to talk to someone that's 1,500 miles away, then what you need is what they call the repeater system. So you're not only going to have a ham radio, but you're going to need a repeater system in order to be able to reach a further distance. But it also, what it does is it goes around like trees, it goes around the mountains, so essentially what it does is it picks up information and it moves around it, and still be able to carry it. Without that repeater system, you can't reach that long distance. However, if you live on top of a mountain, you will have no problems. You won't need a repeater system for that. But if you live in an area where you're in the hills or the mountains or somewhere parts of the mountains, and you're trying to get information across the mountain, then you will need a repeater system for that. So
Is this? I have it up on the screen here. I think, I don't know. It might be hard to see. It's a guy, and I think that's a repeater, maybe.
Mhm.
But that's a guy in a truck. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so that is communication. And with the other stuff, like, I mean, if we get a total, I don't know about EMP, or at least, but there are some things that the average person's not going to be dealing. I mean, what if you're living in an average neighborhood, you're not prepared? It helps to have what, like a 7-day supply of food or month. I mean, what can the basic average person do? Like in a big suburban area, if they can't get out, just have some food and do the basics.
Yeah, so you need about a year's worth of supply of food. That's
Wow.
one for a year's supply for one person. So if you got 5 people in your house, you need 5 years worth of supply of food.
Wow.
As far as water goes, there's several different ways you can handle that. Now, some people are getting into water storage. The only trouble that comes with that is this. There's always a chance for bacteria to build up in it. So you're going to have tablets that you can put into the barrels. Now, personally myself, I've installed a sand well point or a galvanized pipe. What it is just a little head piece. It's got a bunch of holes in it, and basically you're just taking a post driver and driving it down into the ground. Now, I go to the United States Geological Survey to find out where on the well maps to get an idea how far or how deep I need to go to hit that water vein. Now, once you hit that water vein, you can use a pump to clear it out. And then once you're done doing that, take that pump off, and then you hook on your elbow and run the water line into your house. Then you're going to want to have is at least a 1 horsepower electric motor. It's a pump that pumps that water out of the well and into your house. And as long as you have some kind of electrical system, whether it's solar or whether it's a fuelless generator like the one I've built, and then you can set that your whole house up on that, and then you just plug that right into an outlet, and you can have constant running water all the time.
Okay, sounds great. It sounds like the only way, I don't want to say go back to analog, but are there like there was a company a couple of years ago, a gas pipeline that was shut down, I think, because of a hack. And I remember the Southwest and several parts of the country, we had a gas shortage in parts of the country because I think somehow they literally like closed off the oil supply, or it was Texas or wherever it was. But do we need to start rethinking the whole way as in America of how we're communicating? Like you said, everything's digital. Do we need to start changing it up a little or doing something different?
Yeah, we still have the mail system that works very, very well. We can get back into doing the whole pen pal system. Another thing is we can do ham radios. Now, CB radio, you don't have to have a license to operate those, so you can actually use a CB radio any time of the day,
Yeah.
or even just general walkie-talkies.
Okay.
Things that are not connected digitally, you're better off in the long run. Now, I do have my digital systems, which is my laptop, my phones and stuff. However, if the likely of an EMP is very unlikely in most cases, because the fact that everything is on a digital system, it's much easier to take it down to online. But however, does it mean that an EMP can't happen? It could happen by various different reasons. It could be a massive solar flare. It could be a nuclear weapon missile that flies up high up into the matosphere and it detonates, and it causes electrical discharge that would wipe out pretty much everything, like from your phones to just small devices. That's why you need to have a Faraday cage. The best Faraday cage I can tell you to have is get yourself a metal shed. Take a piece of copper wire, wrap it around, a piece of that shed, and then drive it at least 3 feet into the ground. Everything you have inside should be sitting on like concrete and rubber. You don't have to worry about, any of that affecting. But the thing is that at the end of an EMP, this is what a lot of people don't realize is the chances are your cell phones are not going to be working. However, that doesn't mean that you can't still use them to take pictures and take videos. You can still utilize them, but you just can't use them in the same capacity as you always.
Does it fry them? I mean, they're not able to be, that technology cannot be repaired. Does it literally like destroy the?
Yeah, it'll destroy the processing, the CPU that's in your phones.
Let me take you back. This is not there. Sorry, wrong thing. The Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, because I used to live there. The water plant that was hacked. The average person might be thinking, well, how the hell can a company or a foreign whatever? This is a plant in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. How can Iranians hook into this? Because what all the controls are digital, like all the connections. There's a computer running all of this.
Yes. So it'd be quite surprised. So they have an operating system, a CPU operating system that controls all of that. And that would allow them to be able to take control of the electrical outputs, to shut things down. They could flip a switch, like you said, off and on.
Wow. Is there a way companies can get away from that digital, or are we stuck? Is there no
No,
other way? Is there no other way that you would recommend
I,
municipalities and governments? What would you do to change to buffer the security?
well, what I would do is have I would have hire staff on-site staff to work there. I would hire on-site security to work at the place, guarding the place 24/7. As far as communication goes, I think that they can do it, drive in person and talk in person, or they could use encrypted ham radios. They could be able to communicate with each other just like the communication centers and the police department have. That is the best way to do it, because if you're leaving everything to being online, to being on the grid, and then you have more vulnerabilities than you possibly realize. But if you take
Okay. So you're saying the less that can be on the grid, the better. And I
Yeah,
know companies do this; they do it to save money, but then you have more risk the more you put on the grid.
exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. And then if you put everything on the grid, boom, you're okay. That makes total sense. And hopefully, some companies will be listening to that. But the U.S. government, you would think the average American, they're preparing for this. I would hope they are, but you don't. You're not as optimistic, probably, that they're not ready. Obviously,
Well, the biggest challenge is going to be the shock value when things go down the first 3 4 5 days, maybe a couple of weeks. People are going to have to get readjusted to living like how our ancestors did for thousands and thousands of years, without having electricity, without having air conditioning. Um, and I'm seeing is that more and more people are starting to get acquiescence with the idea that, okay, if I don't have electricity, how do I prepare for this? They're asking questions, and it's a good thing that people are asking questions. Um, my biggest suggestion is to people is this: um, if you can go camping for a whole week without electricity, then you can survive a whole week without electricity in your house. However, though, is the communication. That's going to be the biggest impact, is where there's going to be areas that won't have communication. People are going to want to know what's going on. So that's why I recommend that everybody gets at least a CB radio. Um,
okay. Yeah, no, that's great. And the second part, and you said you've talked to this before, and the last thing I'll talk to you so we can get going, but billionaires are building bunkers all over the place, and it's not, it used to be something that, oh, that's not happening, that's not real, but now you're seeing the mainstream publications. I think this is Daily Mail. What do they know? World's billionaires are building bunkers and assembling fortresses outside of their mansions. Doomsday prepping only used to be, for some weird people, but now Zuckerberg and all these billionaires, Idaho. I'm looking at it here, left and right. The guy, Sam Altman, the guy who heads up PayPal. What's going on? And obviously, they have money to burn, probably, but they wouldn't be burning this money if they didn't think there'd be a need for it.
True, and that's the thing, is that you got to understand billionaires tend to have a greater insight to what is actually going on in the world.
Okay.
And they are also a lot of times they get information as to what's about to come. And so, because of their money and their prestige, to have access to information that the average American does not have on a daily basis. Now, some can argue and say, are they a part of the reason why we're going to
Yeah.
have a particular collapse?
Yeah.
Chances are more than likely because there's an influence that they have on an outcome on how things are being done. Now, the fact that they're going out there and building all of these bunkers, that's very troublesome.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
a sign of the coming times. So where we need to be, thinking kind of in the same fashion. We need to be building root cellars and getting the equipment that we need to be able to survive off the grid. So
yeah, wish I could have a bunker that has a swimming pool like that. So, but yeah, they're obviously, um, yeah, doing it. So, and Facebook's a whole other issue. I'll get into that at some point. I've had so many bots on my Facebook page; it's getting out of control. The amount of bots, and it's something like you said. It just feels weird. And with what
Mhm.
happened today, like Senator Rubio, Republican, he said this is just a tiny bit of what could happen.
Yeah, it is. Think of it this way: imagine there's no electricity ever again. How would we be able to communicate with one another? Well, for one, we would have to get out of our house and go and actually talk to people, or we'd have to go to the center city hall or a city square where people then would have to amass, and then they would have to share information that way. And then, of course, you'd have to have one or two people then ride outside of town to go to the next town and share that information. But um, so
Society would break down. People freak out when the Facebook goes down. Imagine that, and then you'd have looting, and it would be. I can't even imagine what it would be like. Yeah.
I would say the first 6 months to a year is going to be the worst time. And those who survive the first 6 months to a year, then that's when you're going to start to see society start to kind of settle down a little bit and start working together. But it's always the first 6 months of 1 year of panic because people are not accustomed; they're not going to be used to this, and they don't have a plan in place. There are a lot of folks out there who I will be honest, they still have their heads stuck in the sand. They think that the government's going to be there to protect us. At the end of the day, it's not the government that puts that's going to be there to make sure that you're okay. It's going to be your neighbors, it's going to be your friends and your family.
You're damn right about that. And I'm going to bring up once again on the screen, people watching. I think you said it's okay. Amazon, I typed in your name. These are
Mhm.
your books, right?
Mhm.
The Ultimate Home Security. That one, Awakening the Republic. Is that a new one?
So yes, it is. So Awakening Republic is based on a history. What it is a storyline, but it's 30 years of research. As I found who the real enemy is that's orchestrating everything that's going on today, and I put that in a contextual story so you can follow along, and then it takes you to present day where the individual Sam Stone um, who was kind of like the guy that's sparked the whole a revolution of information, communication, um, defying the cabal, so to speak. And he
Yeah.
teams up with, just a bunch of other individuals. But there are stories of real people
Okay.
who have been injured or who have been um, systematically attacked by the government in some fashion or way or another. Or there's actually a couple other people that are actually in the book that are anonymous, but they share their stories about the injustices that the government's causing on the American people. And then it
Okay.
kind of gives.
I'm going to put the link to this out there. And the Ultimate Home Security. That's the one we highlighted last time. This book. What is this like a how to? What is in this book?
So think of this as like a school book.
Okay.
This is a book that actually teaches you how to do your own home security the way, like myself and thousands of other professionals were regarded, federal buildings, state buildings, and things like this. This is going to give you a breakdown about how it started, and then as we go along, it's gonna share the three keystone uh, methods to how to secure your home, which is prevention, deterring, and defense, and then expands on that, and it shows you exactly how to do this. And it's really what it is that if you were to look at a lot of federal federal government installations. They're not on the digital grid, okay, so to speak. They're disconnected from that, and they do everything in person. They do everything very low tech. So the idea and the premise of the book is to teach people how to set their homes up the same way.
Because I know people are gonna want that, so I'll put the link there as well. And I know you didn't ask me to put this out there, but I think it's very important to let people know to do that. So I hope to God that none of this happens, but it would be absolutely stupid for people not to be prepared. I mean, before 9/11 happened,
Right.
if you would have said that to someone a year before 9/11, that's never going to happen. A bunch of people aren't going to hijack planes. We're safe. And look what happened.
Yep.
So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
I appreciate it.